Welcome to Chasing Rings Overtime. These fast break episodes are an extension of the main show, delivering quick-hitting takes, bold opinions, and analysis on the biggest stories and topics across sports. While we remain rooted in football year-round, Overtime expands our lens to cover everything happening across the sports world. We will return for a second season of full-length episodes in July as we ramp up for complete NCAA football and NFL coverage in preparation for the 2026 seasons. Until then, let's go. This is Chasing Rings Overtime. Welcome to Chasing Rings Overtime. Big dude, what's up today?
Hey, Guru, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Big day in the NFL, kind of the day that we've all been anticipating. The trades that we thought would jump off today, one of them actually occurred, but we had a surprise trade in the NFL, and we'll start there first. So our first surprise of the day was a trade between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns. Surprisingly, Cleveland traded Myles Garrett to the Rams for a first-round pick in 27, second round in 28, and a third round in 29, in addition to Jared Verse, which I think is an incredible trade for really both teams. Cleveland definitely getting a bright young star on the defensive end. He's not going to necessarily replace Myles Garrett, but if you're going to add somebody to the defense and lose Myles Garrett, that's not a bad get. And, of course, the draft capital that they'll have over the next 3 years will be great. So I like what Cleveland's been doing. For the Rams, obviously, they're trying to win now. It's all chips pushed into the middle here by going after Myles Garrett. Big dude, what are your thoughts on this trade, this first trade of the day?
Well, I mean, I think it's all in. The Browns need to build around everything else besides the quarterback. The quarterbacks don't need to be the first talk of everything like it always is. And obviously that's going to dictate how much further they can go. But right now they need to have, some studs on defense, giving up Myles Garrett. I think part of it was a risk, but he wasn't going to be able to win it by himself. There's got to be things that are around it and position them to do other things. And for the Rams, I mean, this is most likely Matthew Stafford's last year from what we keep hearing, or even if it's next to his last year. They have to do it now. I'm happy for the Rams, and everybody says they're the Super Bowl favorite, and we'll see. But I think this puts them in a place that they're almost abominable at defensive line. They just, I mean, if that to use a term. And the thing I'm most disappointed with is we didn't get them, the birds. I understand that we had the legitimate shot, but there's the draft capital, about, what's the win-win situation for the defensive player, two-time defensive player of the year. And as awesome as he is, I think that warrants the draft capital. That's the way I saw it. They are completely, I think, together with whatever else happens next. And they got their backup quarterback for the future. So they did it now, and they have to win now. They were 1 or 2 plays from winning. I think this worked out well for the Rams and not bad for Cleveland. I think Cleveland is still very solid.
Yeah, I think starting with the Rams are definitely trying to win now. And it looks like the Rams are trying to snatch 2 because they did extend Stafford for an additional year. So the Rams know that they'll have him, if his health stays intact, they'll have him for 2 more years. And now with this defense that they've built, I mean, they picked up Trent McDuffie in the offseason. I think it was the other corner was Jalen Watson. So I think probably the weakness in the Rams armor was their defense, especially at clutch time. I mean, we look at the NFC Championship game, they did have a chance to make a stop there at the end, even though I know most of us watching thought that, maybe the Rams should have made a different decision there the last time they had the ball. But they still had an opportunity to get a stop there, and the defense just couldn't hold. And that's kind of been their oust in the last few playoffs. I mean, when the season started last year, they were my favorites to win it. They were there, they had their opportunities, but the defense just let them down. So we'll see if this gets them over the hump this year. A lot of good quarterbacks, and I guess they're thinking that difference is going to be shoring up that secondary and obviously getting one of the best pass rushers that we've ever seen into the fold to put a little bit more heat on these quarterbacks in those pressure game closing situations. Like I said earlier in the intro, I really like what Cleveland's doing. And you made a great point about Cleveland and us not focusing in on their quarterback situation. I mean, that is what it is right now. I think they're certainly looking for 27. However, I know we were talking offline about, what we're seeing in OTA so far. And I know it's only OTAs. I'm not jumping the gun, but Deshaun Watson looks good, interestingly enough. So that is going to be interesting. Word is that he may be the starter. So if he can offer any semblance of his former self, with what should be, again, another top 10 defense, I don't expect a significant fall off with the addition of Verse over Garrett. Certainly you're not getting an all-timer, but Verse is no slouch himself getting to the quarterback. So Cleveland's defense should still be solid. Of course, their one problem is the division that they're in. I would put all other teams in their division ahead of them, but, it's Cleveland. I think that just to see something positive coming out of there is good to talk about, because you root for these franchises that are always kind of the bottom dwellers. You want to see them be competitive. You want to see them compete. So I'm happy that they made this move, and I'm happy that they're being aggressive in making their moves instead of sitting back and kind of settling for the same old stuff season after season. So kudos to them. Now, of course, what we really want to talk about here is this last trade of the day, the Eagles and the Patriots. We all knew this was coming, and certainly, the only thing that really delayed this was the business aspect of it. A.J. Brown going over to the Patriots, and Philly's getting a 5th round pick in next year's draft and a 1st round pick in the 28 draft with some additional compensation. Now, that 5th round pick next year, New England has 2 5th round picks. Philly will get the highest of those 5th round picks, wherever that lands. So, big dude, I'm going to turn the floor over to you on this one to set us off. These are your boys. I know you have some points that you want to make about this and have some feelings about this.
I mean, it was imminent. I think that there was a lot of talk. I know that the first talk was AJ and the Rams, and that didn't happen. In fact, most of the things that I have read and I have seen, that almost seemed like before we found out about the Patriots that in March, the Rams may actually steal AJ. But then the question is going to be, when you compare AJ to Myles Garrett, was AJ worth all that draft capital? He was, worth at least 1. And I still think that 5th round pick, I think he was a little bit worthy of a little bit higher pick than that for the second one. But like we've talked about, draft capital is draft capital. But when you put the two against each other, you're looking at the defensive player of the year, the impact. I say that with AJ Brown, he changes any team's offense. I think that's what goes on. Just like Myles Garrett changes any team's defense. This is a guy that, one-on-one, they can't guard him much. They bracket him. He's 28 years old. He's still got something left. It's all about where his head is going to be, and he asked for the trade, and it's not a trade that I liked because I think this is a little bit more than just about replacing his production that he's had. I know 2 of the last 3 years, he had 1,400 receiving yards and I think 1,003 in the past one. So we have receivers, and of course, they've come from different places, and of course, we got Mekhi Lemon in the draft. And the question will be, is he number 1 or number 2? And it's not going to be about just replacing the production with the yards. It's going to be the impact of whether teams see all of our receivers in any way that they saw both of the, Batman and Skinny Batman duo, especially. I mean, because the thing is, something needed to happen because, in essence, our third receiver was really Dallas Goedert. I mean, we didn't really have another slot. So I say with this trade, it's going to be difficult. They say we'll be okay, but I don't know that we're going to be the same in terms of what secondaries are concerned about, especially now that somebody like Harbaugh is coaching in a division now, with the Giants. I'm very, very concerned about that because AJ brings a whole different perspective. And, and our time is short, so we won't get into all those other things other than that AJ hopefully has learned from his experience. When you're asking for something, you don't need to go 100 different places, and you don't need to show on-camera reaction with a number of things that he did. I think, though, even through all that, there was still a way, I think, to look at what else he wanted. But if he didn't want to be there, I think it was the best thing because it was really poisoning the team, irrespective of whose thing it was. And we saw the jersey that you had up now that he's number one. Yeah, I'm probably sure it's a direct shot, but even something like that, he just is not helping himself. And then if you don't help yourself with something like that, you don't help the team. And the Patriots have a good organization. The question will be, can Drake May get him the football the same as Jalen Hurts? I don't know. I mean, Drake May had a terrible playoff performance. If he thought he came, meaning AJ, if AJ thought he came out frustrated out of the playoffs, and he didn't play well himself, of course, in that last game, he's got to take a look at, what does that mean for Dobbs and Butte as well? What do they become? How is he going to be able to help that room? Well, we all know he's the best receiver out of the three, but are they going to benefit from him being the number one guy in the room? He has to understand, his value on championships to me is questionable, saying that thanks for the Super Bowl ring, but I never knew there was a but. So
right.
I that's where I'm at. So I'm on multiple levels of disappointment with the AJ trade. More disappointed with no one stepping in with the Eagles. I think this whole thing, I'm not going to say could have been squashed, but there's only so much that you become, like for Sirianni, a player's coach. You have to tell people what's going on. You don't have to wait to the field to air your differences. And who knows what really happened. But I just think that the Eagles learned from this as well, from Devontae Smith being now the number one and Devontae Smith having a good attitude. I hope he keeps it, and we'll see what happens. But I hope the number one pick, we work on offensive line. That's what I hope.
Well, I know that there's a lot of layers to this because this trade has a different type of feel than we normally feel when a player is quote unquote disgruntled, right? It's not like AJ was all over TV and social media demanding
No.
out. And I hate to use T.O. as an example because I love
Yeah.
T.O., but
Yeah.
he did not express his displeasure as outwardly as T.O. did. So it's almost a bittersweet. I can see where it'd be a bittersweet day for Eagles fans and the organization, because I don't think that AJ leaves the organization with any animosity on a macro level. Now, I definitely do feel that there is something there with him and Jalen. I don't know if it transcends the field or if it's just specific to the game itself. But in terms of being able to stop this, I don't know. I think that had anyone tried to intervene in this, it would not have benefited the Eagles in any manner, because there comes a point in a relationship, and because this is a relationship, where you got to cut your losses. You can still love each other and cool, but it's just you're not getting along, and you just gonna have to agree to disagree. I can love you from afar. You go your way, I go my type of situation. Is I think why this feels so strange. I don't think that AJ necessarily wanted to leave, and I don't think the Eagles wanted to depart from him, but I don't think there was a choice, to be quite honest with you. I mean, playing sports, and not everyone's going to love each other in the locker room, but
Yeah.
you try to do the best you can around that to maintain a good culture around your team. And I think if you look at how the Eagles season ended last year, that culture was about as bad as you can get. And you can
Yeah.
see it in the body language in that playoff game. Um, you just kind of saw it leading up to that. The body language wasn't good. The interaction wasn't good. You have a quarterback and a wide receiver. If things aren't going right, I want to see you on the sideline getting together and, strategizing and figuring out how you could fix it. Not one sitting at one end of the bench, the other sitting the other end. Nobody's talking to each other. And you see that too often in sports today. It's one of the things that kind of drives me crazy. I know when we played, if something wasn't going right out there, man, the unit, whether you were on defense or offense, you were getting together and saying, yo, this is what I'm seeing out there. This is what's happening, separate from even what the coaches may be providing you. So that was kind of the big red flag for me. I hated to see him go just from a historical perspective as a sports fan, because I always want to see when you have a team, and I consider the Eagles a great team in its current formation, where they could have taken this, keeping everyone intact and building with the younger pieces they've been getting every year. But unfortunately, we won't get to see that. But it's something that had to happen, I think. On New England's end, I want to be careful how I phrase this. I'm not sure that they know what they're getting. And I don't mean like they just got sold a bill of goods in any way, because I like AJ. I hope he does well, not too well since he's in the division with my boys now. But I still hope that he, the rest of his career is successful. But, my concern with him, and I think it's a valid concern, is as soon as something doesn't go right, what's the reaction going to be? Because I think, I've been going back and forth with, I assume they were Patriots fans earlier today, thinking, hitting me with, well, Drake May was 75% with scrub receivers. What do you think he's going to be with A.J. Brown? Well, would they have won the Super Bowl if A.J. Brown was in the Seattle game?
No.
I would say probably not.
No.
Drake May, this anointment of Drake May, I don't recall a quarterback being anointed so early.
Yeah.
And he hasn't won anything yet. First and foremost, he hasn't won anything. And this whole thing from AJ's perspective, does he think Drake May is better than Jalen Hurts? That's the one thing that I struggled with right before we got on this show. Does he really think he went into a better situation? Right. He went into a more familiar with situation because he played for Vrabel before. Right. But to me, this doesn't make New England the kings of the mountain just because they get A.J. Brown.
No. And that's what I was saying, but I think, where he might do a little bit better is he's going to listen to Vrabel a little bit more than Sirianni. I think Sirianni, it seems like one of those people, and I respect this part of it. As men, you deal with your situations, like you said, on and off the field, and you see if you can bring things to a resolution, and nobody needs to know all the details with everything going on. But I guess what I'm saying is, Guru, is you just can't keep letting stuff happen. That's one thing I remember. Although it was basketball, between Kobe and Shaq, they were like, "Hey, Shaq, how in the world did this whole dispute with you and Kobe end?" He said, "Jerry West called us both in, and he cussed us both out." That's what it had to happen.
Voice of reason.
Yeah. He's like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. One of you jokers is going to be gone, and that's kind of how it's going to be. So he was able to do certain things. So I have a lot of hope for him, because my hope is well, you know how I am. My hope is well beyond football. I think he'll make the Patriots, probably put the Patriots in a situation, not make them better, but the Patriots have a chance to be better. But really, it's going to be about, and I agree with you about Drake May, it's going to be about getting him better, him making good choices, and deciding whether he can run the offense with a personality as strong as AJ's. He has a strong personality in a lot of ways. He tries to seem like he's very vulnerable. I actually like that about him, because he knows how to turn the vulnerable, switch on. And I like that about him. But then there's that other part of it where if something just didn't go well, you have to own it, or there is no we're doing better. But last year I get it, 7 touchdowns, 1,003 yards receiving. He has to ask himself, what is it that your years marked by when you do? And we talked about they had a show about the gold jacket. What does a gold jacket mean? I don't know, like Dion or anybody else. It was about winning a championship, with Dallas and San Francisco. And if things had been different with Washington, he probably would have taken that one too, So that is what my concern with him is. Do you want to receive for 1,500, 1,600 yards, break record? And I know you can have it all, like Dion. They used to say Dion in that one commercial. Jerry Jones says, Dion, so what do you need? 15 million, 20 million? And he said both. So I get it. I get it. But when you start talking about how you look at your legacy, how did you make other people better? You don't want to get to that point where all of a sudden, because 28, you're not too old, but you're not too young either. So you might have, 2.5, maybe 3 years of that explosive part that you have left. So don't get too. And Patriots are someone, they can take you and they can replace you like a robot's part. And that's what I always liked about the Patriots. Nobody ever was too good on the Patriots for them not to just do what they had to do. And that's why I thought, when we start talking about Hall of Fame, Kraft, and, and everybody else that's involved, those folks made the difficult decisions. And I would say with the Eagles, they did something in this particular way. The question is how do they – to me, though, I don't think the Eagles understand. You can get somebody else to get 1,000 yards receiving between 3 people. But that's not the point. It's the impact, We know Barkley, if he's not working, what is going to get the offense going? We got a new offensive coordinator. Now, with this new person coming in, what is that going to be? Another – and then I think someone also mentioned, I've heard on a few shows, this is probably like AJ's like 7 different offensive coordinator. So how does that work? Or is he going to go past the offensive coordinator and just go to his head coach? So to me, it's going to be about how he interacts, and there is going to be weird stuff that's going on, but you can't get everything that you want. And is it going to be a time where you get him his 9, 10 catches in the game? As long as he gets his 9 or 10 catches, and then we can play football. No, you can't start a game off like that. It's what the defense is giving you, you take it. If you're waxing the guy, then you keep on waxing him. If they bracket you and you're not getting on, then it's not your game. So
yeah, I think you bring up a good point about the difference between Sirianni and Vrabel. Sirianni definitely dropped the ball. I mean, because obviously there was tension there well before any of us watched it play out, on a Sunday. And he never really intervened at all. And the crazy thing about it is Big Dom intervening with ownership. That's rather ridiculous. Where's the head coach in this situation? And I think that is going to be something that's very different from Vrabel. Vrabel is not going to hesitate to, I would think, check him when need be, if need be. And I'm hoping that he doesn't have to. But again, my concern is always chemistry when things are not going your way. That's because that's what it all comes down to. When it's sunny out and we're winning and everybody's touching the ball, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And for New England, a very young offense, he's now going to be the veteran at the skill positions on that offense, and he's going to have to show leadership that he didn't show in Philly. And I'm not saying that he failed to show it. That may not be his makeup. In Tennessee, I don't recall him necessarily being a vocal leader, and maybe that's not his thing. So then, what happens when the offense isn't clicking? Like what?
Right.
You're not going to be allowed to get into May's face, which I think that he will probably approach May differently than he did Hurts because of the different personalities. Because I don't think he was going to get into Hurts's face, whether they were friends or not. But does he feel like he could get in May's face, a younger quarterback? Just different personalities. It's going to be very interesting. That's what I'll be looking at more than anything else. Can he contribute to the Patriots? Without a doubt. I mean, the guy's got a chance to be the best receiver in the AFC, or if not in the league. I just don't see things through the same rosy lenses that it seems like a lot of the Pats fans seem to see it just on the basis of this one transaction. I mean, look at the larger picture. In the AFC, what teams are you going to have to go through? And I'll throw my boys out for, to stay objective. The Houston Texans defense, the Broncos defense, Kansas City's defense is going to be better. Chargers defense was a top 10 defense. It's loaded over there.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to, it's not like you went to the weaker conference and you're just going to get off now.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he's thinking of all those circumstances. I can't tell you because I'm not inside his head. And I guess that's the problem. People used to tell me, you don't know what's inside my head. And I was like, yeah. And, I said, yeah, that's the problem. Those are the only problems I ever had with players, playing with them, coaching them. No, I don't. That's the problem. I don't know what's inside your head. I don't need to know it all the time. But, and I have to give, Rob Thompson, the Eagles, the Phillies manager that got fired. He had the problem with Nick Castellanos last year. And they kept asking him, do you know that Nick is frustrated? He said, I had an idea about it. He said, but you know what? He never said anything. I'm not a mind reader, so I don't know. So that's when his trade and all those things went bad because of a lack of communication. It's almost like people should have known that he was mad. That's what a lot of players say. You should have known how I was feeling, man. When you got all those touches, and then you look at I think it was, who did they have last year? Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs got over 100 touches last year. Is that what he wants? He wants to make sure he has at least 110.
He absolutely wants some. He wants over 100 touches for sure.
Yeah. Is that what he really wants? So if he wants that's okay. It's just that you can't plan on it working out that way.
Yeah. I mean, in his mind, I could see where he could think, okay, well, I'm going to a Super Bowl contender. They were just a Super Bowl runner-up, right? I guess if you're looking at it on the surface, but if you look at it in its totality, you can also look at it from the lens that a lot of us saw through. It's like, okay, New England, if this is who they are, they're way ahead of schedule, first and foremost. But a lot of us don't think that this is who New England is.
Right.
We think that they caught lightning in a bottle. Things fell their way. I mean, you saw Drake May did not play well in the playoffs at all.
He didn't.
At all.
He didn't.
So you went from a quarterback that is a Super Bowl champion to a quarterback that yet to prove that he can even show up in a playoff game.
Yeah.
Okay, because New England won, but their quarterback did not show up. The defense won the games that they won for them. And then Denver not having their quarterback, that was the biggest gift they could have gotten. So this is going to be real interesting to see what this New England Patriots team looks like. And I'm telling you, I do not believe, and again, I'm being as objective as I can possibly be with all this Bill stuff behind me. I do not believe that the Patriots will make the playoffs this year. I do not.
Wow.
I do not.
Well, if they don't do some different things, and that's the other thing I don't think AJ's seeing, he doesn't value that the year they won the Super Bowl, even 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row, the Eagles had. And again, I'll take out the at the risk of not sounding objective, I'm not sure there was a better offensive line in 3 years than the Eagles.
Well, and that's the thing. You think about what you're comparing here. You're comparing when camps open. The last 5-6 years,
right?
The Eagles were one of the favorites to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Some of those years they were the favorite to win the whole damn thing.
Right.
I mean, I could be wrong. I don't think anybody's picking New England to win the Super Bowl next year. No. And I don't know if they're picking them to win the AFC. Maybe some are picking them to win the AFC next year, maybe, but I'm not hearing that. And it's not as cut and dry as knowing that this New England team is going to have this same 5-6 year run that the Eagles just had. If it's me, I'm going to sit in the room and we can try to figure it out. I played with many of teammates that I didn't talk to outside of the execution of a scheme of a play. And I just don't feel like you have to be best buddies with somebody to be successful. But you can't let the nature of a negative feeling towards a teammate also impact the progression of the team. And I think that's the point that they had reached with AJ, where his emotions and feelings towards whether it was a team or said players was starting to manifest itself in effort. If you look at the San Francisco game, not running through the routes, short arming passes, that was somebody that was kind of almost had resigned, at least outwardly looking like, I'm not going to be here. I don't want to be here anymore. You can't have that. You just can't have that. But I hope for his sake that it's a better situation for him, whatever he's defining his situation to be. As I mentioned, not too good of a situation. I don't need the Jokers winning anything, but
No.
I hope that it works out the way he wants it to work out for him. I wouldn't have left the Eagles. I'm sorry. I would have done everything I could to try to stay with you all. But that's me. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm sure now that this has finally happened. I mean, there's been rumors since, I don't know, week whatever of the season, and now we're here. I'm sure this is going to be the talk leading all the way through the season. And interestingly enough, the Pats and the Eagles have those, I guess they have a preseason game, so they have that week of practice together. So that'll be quite interesting when the two get on the field. I'm sure it's going to be chippy. And I know if I'm on the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to try to send a little bit of message to my former teammate, as I'm sure he'll try to send a message to those guys. So we'll see what happens, but we'll continue this discussion as things materialize. But thank you for joining us on Chasing Rings Overtime. Again, continue to like, follow, subscribe on all the major streaming platforms. And until our next episode, see ya later.